designing an AI chatbot for customer service.
Making it tangible.
Yes. Tailor assignments to career aspirations. Fosters purpose, shows the relevance beyond grades.
And the last one, number 10.
Emphasize human-AI interaction. This is key. Guide students to see AI as a creative partner, a tool that augments them, not a replacement for their own thinking.
AI is co-pilot, not autopilot.
Exactly. In marketing, use AI insights to refine campaigns, seeing AI as amplifying their strategy, informing human decisions, facilitate open dialogue about their perceptions, their concerns, respect the human side of the connection. These practices all point to AI enhancing us, empowering us, not diminishing us.
That's a great summary, and it leads perfectly into this whole concept of AI literacy. Our sources really hammer this home. AI skills aren't just nice to have anymore, are they?
Not at all. They're becoming essential for employability, for just functioning as an informed citizen.
Right. Big employers like Microsoft, Deloitte, they're emphasizing AI aptitude in hiring. And the World Economic Forum projected that by 2025, like half of all employees would need significant reskilling, a lot of it focused on AI.
It's a fundamental shift, not just a trend.
But despite this urgency, there's still that challenge you mentioned. Educator apprehension.
Yeah, it's real. Worries about plagiarism, privacy, ethics, just not knowing the tech well enough. These are valid concerns. But that apprehension, while totally understandable, it really highlights why we need clear guidance, good training, strong support for teachers. We need to empower them.
So given all that, what exactly is AI literacy? It's more than just using the tools, right?
Oh, much more. It's about the critical application of AI. Understanding its ethical side, its societal impact, its practical implications.
So knowing how it works, basically.
Knowing how it works at a basic level, yes, but also using it effectively to solve problems, thinking critically about its output. Is it biased? Is it accurate? And grappling with those ethical dimensions. One source put it nicely. AI literacy is the ability to understand, use, monitor, and critically reflect on AI applications, even if you can't build an AI model yourself.
Being a smart, responsible user and citizen in an AI world.
Exactly. And to help grasp this, one framework breaks AI literacy into 4 dimensions. They're connected, but distinct.
Okay, what's the first dimension?
Know and understand AI. This is about getting that basic understanding. How AI functions, its scope, key concepts, techniques.
What kind of activities fit here?
Things like learning to write good prompts for ChatGPT or Claude, exploring how AI gives different responses, using AI for note-taking, like with Otter, brainstorming, mind mapping with tools like Miro that have AI features, assisted writing with Grammarly or Quillbot, summarizing articles with ChatPDF, even generating images with Midjourney. It's about building that foundational familiarity. What can it do? What are its limits?
Getting hands-on, getting familiar. Okay, second dimension.
Use and apply AI. This moves beyond just knowing to actually using AI tools to get things done, applying them in different situations.
Like for research.
Exactly. Using AI for paper research with tools like connected papers or consensus to find and organize sources. Using specialized tools like Elicit or Rayan for systematic literature reviews. Using AI for better information searches, solving problems, visualizing data, creating multimedia content. It's about actively leveraging AI to boost productivity, achieve specific goals.
AI is a powerful assistant. Makes sense. Third dimension.
Evaluate and create with AI. This involves higher-order thinking skills. The ability to critically evaluate AI outputs, appraise them, even design with AI tools.
So going deeper.
Much deeper. Activities here include evaluating the data used to train AI. Is it biased? What's the quality? Doing practical data analysis with AI software, but understanding its limitations. Critically evaluating complex info or societal issues using AI, but always cross-referencing with solid peer-reviewed sources. It emphasizes critical analysis, discernment, and contributing original work with AI, not just letting AI do it all, becoming a skilled AI co-creator.
Okay, and a fourth dimension. Sounds crucial.
It is AI ethics. This is squarely focused on making informed, responsible decisions about how to use AI appropriately and ethically.
What does that look like in practice?
Vital stuff for future citizens and professionals. Implementing clear AI policies in schools, having real discussions about the ethical implications of generative AI, especially things like hallucination, where AI makes stuff up.
Like fake references and all that.
Exactly. Applying AI ethically in research or projects. It even includes co-creating AI ethics policies, maybe getting students involved to build shared responsibility.
And how should schools apply this framework? Top down.
Interestingly, the framework suggests a bottom-up approach is often better. Empower individual teachers and departments to drive integration within their own areas.
More flexible, less resistance.
Probably. Avoids bureaucratic hurdles. But program directors can still use the framework to spot gaps across a student's whole journey, ensuring AI literacy develops progressively. It's adaptable to different subjects, different needs.
It makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Relevance and agency drive adoption. Okay, let's shift gears now, quite significantly, and look at how AI is changing academic research and publishing. Scientific writing. Anyone who's done it knows it's tough.
Oh yeah, demanding stuff.
Clarity, accuracy, tons of research, analysis, synthesis. It takes ages, and errors happen, right?
Absolutely, despite best efforts.
But this is where AI, especially these large language models, LLMs like GPT 3.5, GPT 4, this is where they can really step in, simplify workflows, improve quality.
Definitely. AI can be like a co-pilot across the whole research journey. Let's start right at the beginning. Research concept and hypothesis generation.
Helping come up with ideas.
Yeah. Assisting researchers just understand the nature of research better, generate ideas for research questions. AI is great at finding knowledge gaps by chewing through massive amounts of literature way faster than a human.
And it can suggest new hypotheses.
That's the really exciting part. It can suggest connections between ideas that seem totally unrelated.
Can you give an example? How does that spark new ideas?
Okay, imagine a researcher working with, say, chitosan. It's a biomaterial used in wound dressings. AI, analyzing thousands of papers, might suggest, hey, have you considered its potential in drug delivery systems? Or maybe synthesizing new materials for batteries. It connects dots across disciplines.
Wow.
Or for someone in sustainable energy, AI could help brainstorm ideas for the green synthesis of complex materials. Maybe covalent organic frameworks for hydrogen fuel cells. It spots those hidden links in the literature, accelerating innovation.
That's incredibly powerful for pushing boundaries. Okay, what about the literature review? The bane of many researchers' existence.
Tell me about it. The digital haystack. ChatGPT can automate searching for relevant papers, pull out key info, synthesize results from multiple studies, saves hundreds of hours, potentially.
Just summarizing trends?
Summarizing trends, giving quick overviews of topics, filtering literature by date, author, journal, and it can even help with an initial quality check analyzing abstracts, identifying main findings quickly, a rapid first pass.
That alone would be huge. What about meta-analysis? Combining study results statistically.
Another game changer. AI can help with the stats, calculating effect sizes, spotting heterogeneity between studies. Again, massive time savings compared to doing it manually. It can even help spot potential publication bias by analyzing patterns in published work, which is critical for research integrity.
Okay. And summarization, just making long papers shorter.
Making them digestible, yeah. It can generate concise summaries of really dense research papers, theses, even complex patents, improves comprehension, saves time. It can even compare summaries of different documents to quickly spot similarities and differences. Great for comparative analysis.
What about idea extraction and innovation? Finding the new stuff.
AI can quickly pinpoint key ideas and innovations within papers, but what's amazing is it detects subtle patterns, connections, insights between concepts that a human might miss just due to the sheer volume.
So it frees up the researcher.
Exactly. Frees them up to focus on what humans do best. Designing experiments, analyzing data, creative problem solving, the hands-on thinking parts.
And research design, choosing methods.
AI can guide researchers here too, suggesting the best methods, the right tools, maybe survey designs, interview protocols based on the research question and the data available, streamlines the workflow, improves quality by ensuring rigor from the start, like having an expert consultant on call.
Okay, now let's focus on ChatGPT in academic writing itself. This is where many academics feel the direct impact.
For sure. First, drafting and content creation. ChatGPT can generate coherent, grammatically correct text, helps create high-quality first drafts of papers, articles, theses.
Like writing whole sections.
It can assist with introductions, lit reviews, methods, results, discussion, conclusions, often gives a solid starting point, beats the blank page. It can even take informal notes from blogs, chats, and turn them into precise, formal academic language. Help find sources, too.
That's a huge help, especially for non-native English speakers.
Absolutely. Which leads to language translation. ChatGPT can translate accurately between many languages if it has the training data, and crucially, it considers context and tone, not just word for word. Helps non-native speakers overcome barriers, get published internationally, improves writing quality significantly.
What about paraphrasing? rephrasing text.
Very useful. It generates alternative versions with the same meaning but different wording. Helps avoid accidental plagiarism, adds variety to the writing. It's smarter than just swapping synonyms. It looks at context and purpose.
Okay. Data interpretation and visualization. How does AI help there?
It can help make sense of complex data sets, identify trends, patterns, outliers may be hidden to the human eye. It can suggest the right statistical tests and generate visuals, graphs, charts, even guide you through data cleaning, filtering, sorting, analysis, foundational skills in many fields.
And even title and keyword generation.
Yep, creating catchy, relevant titles and keywords. Vital for getting found in academic databases, boosting visibility, citations. It can suggest alternatives, give feedback. And finally, reference management.
Generating citations.
Generating references and citations for almost any topic and formatting them in specific styles, APA, MLA, Chicago, ensures compliance with those tricky style guides. Interestingly, tools like Bing Chat now show related references during conversations, helping you find sources as you research.
So beyond just writing, AI helps with academic publishing too.
Definitely. It can act as a sophisticated journal finder and recommendation tool, suggest suitable journals based on your paper's topic, keywords, abstract, references.
Helping you choose where to submit.
Exactly. Provides info on journal scope, editors, guidelines, even acceptance rates. Helps authors be more strategic, saving time on submissions.
That often feels like desk work. What else?
It helps with journal-style formatting, assisting authors format papers to meet those very specific, often complex journal requirements like APA style, automates parts of a tedious, error-prone process.
Okay, and the dreaded peer review response.
Ah, yes. ChatGPT can help draft clear, concise, professional responses to reviewer comments, assist in explaining revisions, justifying decisions, maintaining a respectful tone, can make that whole process smoother, more positive.
That's invaluable. And finally,
ethics and technical compliance checkers. AI can act as a check to help ensure research meets ethical standards, human subjects, research, data privacy, identify potential ethical issues or technical errors, suggest improvements for compliance, huge for research integrity.
So besides ChatGPT, there's a whole ecosystem of specialized AI tools for academics.
Oh, absolutely. It's exploding. You've got SciSpace for understanding papers, simplifying concepts, often as a Chrome extension.
Like a research assistant in your browser.
Pretty much. Scholarcy creates summarized flashcards from articles, extracts figures, links to sources. Jenny AI is a writing assistant with autocomplete, plagiarism checks, citations, paraphrasing.
You mentioned Chat PDF earlier.
That's
talking to your PDFs.
Exactly. Upload a paper, ask it questions, get summaries. Super useful. PaperPal is an academic writing tool with an MS Word add-in focused on improving language and catching errors.
What about finding papers?
Research Rabbit uses citation mapping to help you find relevant papers visually. Trinka is an AI grammar checker specifically for academic and technical writing nuances. LitMaps also creates visual maps of papers based on citations, showing connections.
No tools?
Yeah, Elicit acts as a research assistant, automating parts of lit review, finding papers, extracting key points. Consensus uses AI to summarize findings from over 200 million papers, giving quick evidence-based answers. And Claude AI is another powerful general AI good for analyzing papers, summarizing, finding patterns in large amounts of text.
Wow, the sheer number and specialization of these tools. It really shows a fundamental shift in how academic work gets done, doesn't it, from start to finish?
It absolutely does. Which brings us, very logically, to Section 4, ethical considerations and the crucial human-AI partnership. With all these powerful tools, we have to talk about the ethical side.
Absolutely critical. It's not just what AI can do, but what it should do, right? How do we keep it aligned with our values?
Exactly. And the core ethical implications are pretty expensive. First, privacy and data protection. Using AI in education and research means collecting massive amounts of sensitive data.
Student performance, research data, personal info.
Right. Huge questions arise about who owns that data, who gets access, how secure is it, and the potential for algorithmic discrimination or even surveillance if we're not incredibly careful. It's a fundamental trust issue.
Okay, what's next?
Autonomy and agency. AI systems, especially personalized learning ones or those suggesting research paths, can subtly steer choices. The ethical challenge is preserving student agency, their freedom of thought, making sure AI enhances, not diminishes, independent critical thinking. We don't want passive learners led by algorithms.
A real balancing act. Third,
bias and fairness. This is a huge one. AI is only as unbiased as its training data. If that data reflects existing societal biases,
The AI learns those biases.
it can perpetuate and even amplify them, leading to unequal treatment, especially for marginalized groups. Think about AI in student evaluation or research funding. If the data is biased, the outcomes could be too. AI could deepen societal divides if we're not vigilant.
A scary thought. Fourth, ethical issue.
Loss of control and accountability. Some AI decision-making is opaque, like a black box. We don't always know why it made a certain judgment.
Making it hard to question or fix.
Exactly. Hard to audit, explain, hold accountable for errors or unintended consequences. If an AI makes a critical judgment about a student or a research finding, how do we know why? Who's responsible if it's wrong?
Big questions. Fifth,
The potential for widening the socioeconomic divide. Advanced AI tools are great, but they might widen the gap between well-resourced students and institutions who have access and disadvantaged students who don't have the tech, the reliable internet.
the digital divide gets worse.
It could exacerbate existing educational inequalities, making it harder for some to thrive.
Okay, sixth concern.
This one's a bit more philosophical, but practical too. The dehumanization of learning. Over-reliance on AI could diminish the crucial role of human teachers, those complex interpersonal interactions vital for holistic development, empathy, nuanced critical thinking, the human touch. How do we preserve that?
And seventh, a very immediate one for schools. Plagiarism and misuse.
Right. AI tools make it easier to generate text and pass it off as original work. This means we need better plagiarism detection, yes, but maybe more importantly, assessment strategies that focus on higher-order thinking, critical analysis, original synthesis, things AI struggles with. It's a powerful tool, easily misused.
These are serious concerns. How do philosophical perspectives help us think about them?
They offer valuable frameworks. Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative tells us to treat people as ends, not means. So AI systems must prioritize student interests, growth, moral development, not just efficiency, respect inherent worth.
What about John Stuart Mill's utilitarianism?
That pushes us to ask, do the overall benefits of AI outweigh the harms? Consider equitable distribution. Does it maximize overall well-being or create new disparities, the greatest good for the greatest number?
And Aristotle's virtue ethics.
That focuses on character. Does AI support cultivating critical thinking, empathy, intellectual curiosity? Does it help develop well-rounded people or hinder holistic growth? Building character alongside competence.
Are contemporary philosophers weighing in?
Oh, definitely. Nick Bostrom on existential risks, AI alignment. Susan Schneider on privacy, autonomy, bias, and personalized learning.
Others too.
Luciana Floridi on ethics of information, data exploitation, human dignity. Kate Devlin emphasizing AI complementing teachers, human-centered design. Maurice Johnson on fairness, transparency, accountability in AI assessment. These thinkers highlight the complexity of the need for careful ethical thought.
So practically, how do we address these challenges? What are the best practices?
For algorithmic bias, use tools trained on diverse, representative data, and constantly monitor them for fairness and accuracy, maybe through independent audits. Requires ongoing vigilance.
What about the digital literacy risks? Over-reliance, misinformation?
Adopt blended learning mix AI with human interaction. Ensure equitable tech access. And crucially, embed digital and media literacy into the curriculum. Empower students to evaluate info critically, use tools responsibly.
And for equity and inclusion, making sure everyone benefits.
Focus on accessibility and personalization in AI design. Collaborate with providers to cater to diverse needs, send students different language backgrounds. AI should work for everyone.
What about overall school policies?
General policies are essential. Clear, transparent rules on AI use. Educate staff on capabilities and risks. Monitor usage. Involve parents. Continuously review policies as tech evolves. A robust, adaptable framework.
And fundamentally, what about the role of human experts?
Cannot be overstated. Sources stress that the lack of a critical and expert human mind risks bias, inaccuracy, even AI hallucinations, making stuff up. Human expertise, judgment, ethical reasoning, still the cornerstone of quality science and writing. AI is a co-pilot, needs human guidance.
That point about human oversight leads perfectly into our final section. Section 5, future prospects and this idea of the augmented human. There's this debate, right? Will AI augment teachers or replace them?
A big debate. Some predict algorithmic teaching, the end of traditional models, because AI can automate tasks. But the consensus among experts, current AI really struggles to replicate the complex socio-emotional stuff, deep critical thinking, creativity, the engagement a human teacher fosters.
AI can't replicate an inspiring teacher.
Not even close. So the most likely and probably most desirable future is augmented teaching.
Meaning?
Teachers keep the vital, social, emotional, creative parts, the art of teaching. AI assists with the analytical, data-heavy, personalized tasks. Let AI handle the routine, freeing teachers for what only humans can do, build relationships, spark creativity, offer empathetic guidance.
And what are the promising directions within that augmented model?
Several. First, enhanced teacher support. AI analyzes data, gives teachers deep insights into student performance, learning patterns, allows for much more targeted teaching.
Like a data scientist for every class.
Sort of. Second, scalable solutions. AI can bridge educational gaps, especially in diverse regions or under-resourced areas. Sources mention potential in places like Algeria, helping with large class sizes or regional disparities by offering personalized resources.
Interesting.
Third, more innovative learning models, blending traditional teaching with AI-driven personalized learning, a hybrid approach, best of both worlds. Fourth, AI-enhanced curriculum development. AI analyzes new research, keeps content up to date, relevant, tailored to diverse styles and paces.
Fifth must be about teachers themselves.
Absolutely. Professional development for teachers is crucial. Ongoing training on tools, best practices, ethics, empowering teachers. And sixth, collaborative learning environments. AI can help facilitate group work, peer learning, provide feedback, making collaboration more effective. AI can really uplift the whole experience.
But there are still hurdles, right? Challenges for the future.
The big ones. Infrastructure is massive. Reliable internet, computing power, the cost of rolling this out nationally, prohibitive for many.
And data security.
Huge concern. Protecting sensitive student and research data from breaches, misuse, paramount. Then there's the need for empirical confirmation. We need more solid, peer-reviewed studies proving AI edtech actually works effectively. Some studies show promise, others warn of risks like filter bubbles.
Filter bubbles, where personalization limits exposure.
Exactly, confining learners to narrow perspectives. Also, teacher familiarity and training is still a barrier. Need to boost teacher confidence to avoid underuse or rejection of tools.
And the last,
A nuanced one. Devaluation of the profession. Automating tasks, if not managed well, could risk devaluing teaching. Need to explain AI's purpose, support teachers, show how AI elevates their role. Doesn't eliminate it, it's a redefinition.
But the potential of human-AI synergy seems clear.
Profoundly clear. AI relieves cognitive load on routine tasks, freeing teachers for the creative human parts. Imagine AI agents giving individual follow-ups 204/7 while feeding teachers analytics on class needs. Or AI-generated virtual worlds sparking creativity, guided by human teachers towards unique insights a machine couldn't replicate. This redefinition is possible, but hinges on tackling those tech, ethical, social, organizational challenges.
This opens up new research avenues, too.
Definitely. We need interdisciplinary work. Computer scientists, pedagogues, digital humanities experts collaborating, imagining these new synergies, and crucially, more field studies with teachers and learners, understanding their real experiences, expectations. Listen to the people using it.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive. It's really clear AI has just vast potential, transforming education, research, publishing in really profound ways.
Streamlining tasks, personalizing learning, enabling new kinds of scientific inquiry, accelerating discovery. The impact is undeniable.
And the big theme that keeps coming up is this idea of the augmented human.
Exactly. The best future isn't AI replacing us. It's a symbiotic relationship. AI enhancing our capabilities, extending our reach, elevating our potential, using AI to be more human, more connected, more creative, more insightful.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener. As artificial intelligence keeps learning, keeps evolving at this incredible pace, what new skills, what new ways of thinking, what new forms of intelligence will you cultivate? How will you thrive in a world where machines get smarter and humans become increasingly augmented?
It's a question for all of us.
It really is. We hope you'll think about how you could apply some of these insights in your own learning, your teaching, your research, and just stay curious. Keep exploring the ongoing evolution of AI's role in shaping knowledge and discovery for all of us.